Hello everyone, McGee here with another draft battle analysis video and recap. This time looking at my week 5 match in the PGF against Board and his Scrooge McDucklets. As it stands, I am 3-1 after bouncing back from a rough week 1 start. I have found some really good synergy and gotten into a good stride with my team. So I've been having a lot of success with my pieces lately, finding ways to continue to use McGee, getting good rotational action from mons like my Landorus and my Entei, and then Rotom Wash and Umbreon still proving as useful defensive pieces among my other mons as well. So before we get into this match, we're going to take a look at the options that he had available to him, and then the pieces I brought to best address it. Getting into his team, he's got the Mega Aerodactyl. Not overly scary on paper, just because I have a defensive option I can run with Rotom Wash, as well as Foul Play on an Umbreon to really prevent Mega Aerodactyl from taking off with any sort of Dragon Dance sets. Has a really hard time setting up with those two pieces dealing with it. And then I have options like offensive options like Water Shuriken, Greninja as a way to revenge kill or get around it trying to sub on me. All in all, Mega Aerodactyl is not in an great spot to decimate me, although I am wary it can take off if I lose some of my defensive pieces early. Latios, I have a very specific way of addressing Latios with my Umbreon, as long as it's not going to trick specs onto the Umbreon. Umbreon is in a really, really good position to kind of shut that down. Ferrothorn, somewhat concerning just because I only have a couple of pieces that can break it, but the ones that can break it really, really well. Obviously, Entei can just click Sacred Fire, and Ferrothorn's pretty much dead unless it's running an Occaberry and like max defense. And then I have Fire Fang on the Mega Mawile as an option as well, which can OHKO Ferrothorn pretty reliably after just like a tiny bit of chip. Doesn't matter how defensive the Ferrothorn is, it's going to go down to the Fire Fang. So very, very satisfied with my two breaker options, just knowing I need them safe and alive to be able to do that role effectively. Cinderace, most of its concern is that it has the ability to obviously court change. Makes me not want to run Chestnut, who normally has a pretty good matchup against Cinderace overall. Pyro Ball is affected by not soundproof, bulletproof on the Chestnut, and so Chestnut actually has immunity from Cinderace's best stab option. It's forced to run Flare Blitz to do stab, super effective damage. Obviously, Gunk Shot can do a lot of damage, but Gunk Shot can't actually two-hit KO if it's a Jolly Cinderace, which it doesn't actually need to be. I have a bad speed tier, so Cinderace could run Adamant if it shows up. Jellicent, not super worried about it. I just need to kind of speed creep it a little bit with the Mega Mawile and the knockoff does tons of damage. I can kind of sub in front of it pretty reliably, expecting things like Strength Step or something like that. Sylveon, one of the more concerning offense or defensive pieces, just because I'm really, really reliant on Iron Head from Mega Mawile to break it. Entei can do good amounts of chip and chunk, but unless I'm banded, I struggle to two-hit KO it, and it can really quickly PP stall Sacred Fire with the Wish Protect sets. Regieleki, no concern about that at all, as long as I am keeping my Landorus healthy. Regieleki just doesn't have any sort of offensive momentum while that's on the field and healthy and alive. So my goal is to keep my Landorus safe and healthy if I see Regieleki, otherwise not too worried about it. Mudsdale, not super concerned about it. It has a good defensive presence, obviously, getting the stamina boost that makes it harder for things like Entei to beat it, but it doesn't threaten me too offensively. And then the ground typing isn't something I'm overly worried about with options like Landorus or Rotom Wash, especially Rotom Wash, to kind of shut it down. But it's there as something to consider. Skuntank, not super worried about it. Doesn't do too well against my Mega Mawile, although it has access to things like Flamethrower, so I do need to be wary of that. But overall, it doesn't have great move options, and it doesn't threaten some of my better pieces all that well. Hitmonchan, not super worried about it. I have Florges as an option I can bring, but I'm not expecting Hitmonchan to come to this match. It just doesn't do well against Landorus or Rotom Wash or Mega Mawile. It just doesn't offer that offensive pressure. Linoon, ironically, is something I'm somewhat nervous about. I've shown that I can be vulnerable to belly drum sets. The Slurpuff set was in a really weird position a couple weeks ago to almost annihilate me. So I'm very aware that I expose some weakness to belly drum, and someone might try to double down on it and bring it again. So I'm keeping my eye out on Linoon just because I'm afraid that can break me if it shows up and clicks belly drum. So I'll be keeping that kind of on the back of my mind as I get to team preview. So pieces I brought in this matchup to best address things. M-Mawile, pretty much always is going to come. Speed creep to try and creep past Sylveon and Jellison. I believe Sylveon and Jellison are both base 60, maybe base 65. I know I'm creeping for the highest of what that is. If it's base 65 on the Sylveon, I cannot remember. Just so that I have a chance to go first and kind of take it out, because Sylveon has access to Mystical Fire, so that does concern me if it gets the Mystical Fire hit on a M-Mawile. So I want to try to outspeed it if I can, but I can't overinvest because if Sylveon's investing past a little bit of creep, then I know Sylveon's going pretty speedy, and I just don't want to run with that. So I'd rather go second and be bulkier than try to over creep and still not be successful. Ironhead, obviously, I needed to one-hit KO Sylveon, otherwise it poses danger. Fire Fang, specifically for the Ferrothorn, a really reliable OHKO option if Ferrothorn isn't running the Akaberry. Knockoff, just as a good way to remove items and kind of pick up KOs. Sucker Punch, I'm aware of the dangers of the Latios sweeping me, so I need to be careful of that, and so I have Sucker Punch as an option to kind of address that. Landorus, Leftovers, Speed Crept 277. Let me go back to his team. I believe the 277 was to creep Hitmonchan. So I would creep past the Hitmonchan so I could always outspeed that. I didn't want to be worried about Ice Punch coming in there and causing problems. Hitmonchan has a pretty bad defensive stat, so Earthquake's going to do a ton of damage to it anyway. U-turn for Momentum, Stone Edge for, I believe it was for the Mega Aerodactyl. And then rocks, because I know Mega Aerodactyl can't protect itself from rocks. So if I can get rocks on the field, Mega Aerodactyl is taking 25% every time it comes in, which I find helpful. The Rotom Wash, as mentioned earlier, trying to go for a more defensive spread just so that Mega Aerodactyl isn't really in a great position. Obviously, +1 Stone Edge is going to do a massive amount of damage. I can't get out of 2 at KO range from Stone Edge, probably unboosted even. So I'm just trying to be in as good a spot as possible to prevent it from 2 at KOing me, and then I can Volt Switch out because that does lots of damage. Defog in case he puts up too many hazards that I don't want to deal with. Toxic, because there's a couple things I would like to smack with Toxic that I see opportunities to hit. Latios on a predict, Sylveon on a predict. Largely those are the two ones. Maybe Cinderace, but I'm more in a position to just want to Hydro Pump or Volt Switch on it, so I'm not too worried about that. And then just a little bit sprinkled into special attack. He's got some weird speed tiers. I didn't want to creep Hitmonchan with the Rotom Wash, but I didn't see him out creeping Rotom Wash with anything else. Maybe Sylveon if it's like a really offensive Sylveon, but I'm not too worried about that. Greninja, Choice Specs again, because it's a really good way to check a sweeping Mega Aerodactyl that's behind sub, because I have Water Shuriken to reliably break it after 1 or 2 hits and then do extra damage and at least make it exposed so I can try to take care of it. Dark Pulse, and then Scald. I don't really need any other coverage moves. Scald hits Mega Aerodactyl for super effective. Dark Pulse hits Latios for super effective. Dark Pulse hits Ferrothorn for neutral. Super effective with water. Super effective with dark. Neutral, super effective, neutral. So stab gets me neutral damage at worse on everything. So I didn't really feel like I needed to add any more with that. Ice Beam didn't really bring anything. Water Shuriken has situational value, so I opt for that. 371 is speed creeping the Cinderace, so max speed Cinderace isn't going to get past my Greninja. Entei, Choice Scarf, just a really good option to again deal with Mega Aerodactyl so that I don't have to worry about it getting dangerous. I'm going to always outspeed it. I can fish for Sacred Fire Burns or fish for Stone Edge damage. Stone Edge doesn't one-hit KO it unless I get a crit, so I'm not expecting Stone Edge to be a one-hit KO option, just a way to really put a dent in it and make it really vulnerable to clean up. Crunch for the Latios so I can do good damage, and then Extreme Speed if I need it situationally. I'm not really seeing a lot of spots except against Regieleki because I can't outspeed Regieleki with Entei, even with this Scarf, so I expect that it's possible that the Regieleki may need to be hit with the Extreme Speed at some point in the match, but we'll see what comes of that. And then I believe it's speed invested in a way where I outspeed Mega Aerodactyl after the Scarf, so I'm just creeping Mega Aerodactyl max speed with that to account for the Scarf. And then finally, Umbreon really just needs foul play. I have Baton Pass to create useful momentum for me to get things onto the field for free and safe because Greninja and M-Mawile and Entei do a lot of damage when they hit the field. So I'm just trying to create momentum to put them on the field safely. And so Umbreon's in a really good position to do that. Foul play does most of what I needed to do. I'm not going to be able to beat the Ferrothorn no matter what I do. So just predictive baton passing on those situations will get Entei onto the field for free, and then Entei can pick up easy kills or do massive amounts of damage with Sacred Fire on whatever comes in. So I'm happy with that option. EVs are distributed in a way so that I don't get two-hit KO'd by Draco Meteor from the Latios on a Specs Latios. I'm outside of two-hit KO range from Draco Meteor, and then I'm also in a range to not get two-hit KO'd by unboosted Stone Edge from the Mega Aerodactyl. So in a really, really good spot with the Umbreon where it's able to kind of handle both offensive and special offensive options without being broken, at least quickly. So really happy about that. Obviously, I'm not running the heal bell on him this week, so I am vulnerable to some kind of toxic shenanigans, but I don't see that being overly present with his team. And so I'm just going to do my best to avoid getting slapped with a toxic, specifically from Ferrothorn. Obviously, Ferrothorn hitting me with toxic would not be ideal on the Umbreon. So that's a team. That's what I assemble. That's what I'm generally going for. Strong pivots with my defensive options. So both Umbreon and Rotom can pivot out to get avenues for the Entei or the Mega Mawile, maybe the Greninja to come in there and do damage. And then Landorus also is in a position to both be offensively intimidating or just pivot out and create new windows again for those mons to get on the field and do damage. So I'm going to try to play with my momentum and create really good scenarios for me to just cause a lot of pressure. So team preview. I see Regieleki, so I know I need to be cautious with my Landorus, not let it get sacked early. He's not in a great position to deal with Sacred Fire. He's only got one thing that basically wants to come in on it, which is the Latios. Nothing else really wants to get hit by that, especially if he's not sure if it's banded. So I expect Sacred Fire is going to be trouble for his team. I'm going to lead Greninja. I know I'm going to outspeed pretty much everything. Mega Aerodactyl is not going to take that 1v1 on it, and if Mega Aerodactyl doesn't lead, I safely U-turn. Sylveon comes out. Obviously, I'm not going to 1v1 the Sylveon. I'm going to U-turn here. Either way, Entei's a really good safe option to come in on Sylveon. So I'm happy with that. He comes in with Ferrothorn, still same effect. I think, and I showed this in week 1, I did run Gunk Shot on Greninja 1 week, banded Gunk Shot maybe. And so obviously my opponent needs to be wary of the fact that I could run Gunk Shot just to do a lot of damage and try to break a Sylveon by surprise. So he's being extra cautious on turn 1 to avoid that. It doesn't really matter to me because I get a free U-turn and it still creates the same situation where Entei comes in for free here. Gonna click Sacred Fire. Am not gonna get the burn, which is fair. I got a ton of them the last time I was doing this with Entei, so I can't really continue to expect it. He does a Toxic on Landorus. Really unfortunate. Really didn't expect that on turn 3. I thought he might set rocks or he might try to go for an earthquake on just like a hard read that I stay in and fish for a burn. Either way, he was right to do what he did. He gets Landorus toxic and Regieleki is there, so I need to be really, really cautious with my Landorus. Now I can't be affording to take hits with it. Easy to come in with Aerodactyl. I'm going to put rocks up because, like I said, rocks are a problem for Mega Aerodactyl to deal with. I'm going to hard switch because I'm not going to outspeed this and I don't want to stay in. And Ice Fangs, interesting option for a move to carry. I really think he'd be fine with Stone Edge. I don't think he needed the Ice Fang. Landorus just really isn't in a position to want to 1v1 this or really withstand that kind of damage because, again, I need it for the Regieleki. I'm not going to let it take unnecessary damage early in this game from the Mega Aerodactyl. I'm going to call Mega Aerodactyl is going to switch here. I know it has no reason to stay. I know Ferrothorn wants to come in, so I'm going to click Baton Pass on a free pivot, get Entei onto the field. Entei, really interesting decision by him, too. I want to point this out again. I don't know why he goes into Regieleki here. I think it's a bad call. He has 2 to 3 safer retreat options in either the Mudsdale, because Mudsdale doesn't have a ton of utility, especially against my team. Really, all it wants to do is put up rocks and click Toxics. It's already done the Toxic really effectively. If it can get rocks up before it dies, it's a successful Mudsdale. Really think he should come back in with Mudsdale. I think coming in with Lucky is a mistake because I'm going to hit it with Sacred Fire and it's gone. So Regieleki is out of the way. Really helpful for me. Puts a lot of pressure off of the Landorus to stay alive. So it just really gets me a lot of mobility to work with because now I can utilize him again to create momentum or just try to do damage. Whereas before I was probably going to want to keep him on the bench because of that toxic damage. I didn't want him taking any more damage. Aerodactyl comes out. I'm going to make a decision here. I don't regret it. It's not going to pan out well, but I'm going to try to fish for the burn on the Mega Aerodactyl. I'm going to stay in because I'm outspeeding it. I have another way of dealing with Ferrothorn still. I'm not super worried about that, although I should be more cautious because if I lose Entei, I'm down to just Mega Mawile to deal with that Ferrothorn.
but I'm going to fish for the burn on this to see if I can get the kill. Not the kill, but just ruin its game. I don't get that. It hits the Stone Edge. It kills the Stone Edge because it just does a ton of damage with Stone Edge. I don't regret that decision. It did not pan out in my favor, but
I think overall it was to my benefit to try for it, because if I burnt that, then Mega Aerodactyl's burnt and useless for the game. Regieleki's already out, so that's two of his best offensive pieces gone. Mudsdale's not offensive. Sylveon could be offensive, but probably isn't. Ferrothorn isn't going to be offensive, so it pretty much just falls on the Latios to exert pressure for the rest of the game if I get a burn on it. So I thought it was worth the risk. Doesn't pan out. Oh well. Rotom Wash comes in. Specifically, the reason I come with Rotom Wash over Umbreon is Rotom Wash can now very freely click Volt Switch. I'm not really scared of what he's going to do. He's going to bring Mudsdale in. I don't care because I have Hydro Pump. I'm not scared of it. It's going to take some chip damage. I know it isn't leftovers, so I didn't really see a lot of danger in that decision. Hydro Pump to do some damage there. I'm going to switch out because I don't know if it specs or not. Dragon Pulse does 23%, decent amount of chip. Something to be wary of. He's going to come with Aerodactyl. So, as I mentioned already, Aerodactyl is just not liking these rocks. It doesn't have a way to deal with them. If you look at his team, the only defog option he probably has left is the Latios. I think maybe what he was trying to do with that Alecki earlier is that he was expecting to survive one Sacred Fire so that he could rapid spin the rocks and then die and just try to reset the field. But it didn't pan out well, and now these rocks look to be stuck, and his Mega Aerodactyl is just in a really bad spot with it. I wish here, really satisfied. I wish. I know too that the Mega Aerodactyl has to stay on the field now because I don't think he can clear those hazards. And since he can't clear those hazards, Aerodactyl leaves the field. It dies on entry. So I know it's forced to stay in and attack. So I'm just going to stay in, get my foul play to get the KO, and then I know I'm going to get the wish back to get my health pretty full. So all in all, pans out really well for Umbreon here. Sylveon comes in, not going to stay in on that. Pretty much forced straight in with Mega Mawile, who is going to take a lot of damage from this. So I'm wondering if this Sylveon's offensive. Does quite a bit of damage to me. Mega Evolve, Knockoff, or Ironhead, I'm sorry, Ironhead. And then Knockoff because I think he could maybe switch into Ferrothorn, and I don't want to do nothing, so I'd rather do Knockoff damage because I was sure that the Knockoff was going to do 10%. So I switched to Knockoff on the off chance he switches out. He doesn't. Ferrothorn comes in now. Really, the big thing Mega Mawile needs to do in this game is make sure that the Ferrothorn goes down, because I can push through Sylveon with what's left, but I can't push through Ferrothorn if I lose Mega Mawile. So the situation's in front of me. I'm going to try for the Fire Fang. He is an Akaberry. Really good for me. Means it's out of play and a really good spot to close out this game. I'm going to click Sucker Punch here, expecting offensive Latios, but it goes for Roost, expecting the Sucker Punch. Good on him. I've run it every week, so opponents should be very cautious of Sucker Punch coming out. I'm going to switch out just because I don't know what moves he has. I know he has access to Mystical Fire. I know that it's going to potentially KO me depending on his investment, so I'd rather not chance it. He Agilities here. What this tells me outright is that it's almost certainly a weakness policy set, but I've already been attacked by it once with Dragon Pulse, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to be Dragon Pulse Draco Meteor. It's probably Dual Stab. It should be Aura Sphere, but I don't think it is. And so I know that Dragon Pulse only does 20-ish% to me. So even if he attacks me with Dragon Pulse this turn, and then he attacks me with Dragon Pulse after a weakness policy boost, it's only going to do 60-ish% of my 92%. So I'm not in danger of being 2-hit KO'd even if I set off the weakness policy. And so I'm quite comfortable clicking foul play here, even though on the expectation I'm going to set it off. I do 54%, really relevant amount of damage that it's done. I'm not in danger of getting 2-hit KO'd by foul play or by Dragon Pulse. He does a really silly thing here, and he clicks Roost. So he's got his weakness policy off. Really great for his special attack stat. Really useless for his attack stat, because now his attack stat is double, and my foul play was already doing 54, so now it's a guaranteed OHKO. I don't know why he goes for the Roost here. I just don't think he calced that very well. And so my foul play is just going to get an easy one-hit KO here. That crit doesn't matter. Like I said, I did 54 with it unboosted, and now it's ×2, so I was always going to one-hit KO it regardless. But really happy to get that Latios out of play before it really threatened to do anything dangerous. So it's gone. The Sylveon comes in here. I'm going to click Wish, and for the specific reason, I don't know who's faster. Naturally, I'm a little faster, but he's clearly speed creeping me. I think I even maybe throw some speed on here. Let me double check. No, I did not. So he's at least speed creeping my Umbreon with his Sylveon. it goes first. It only does 46%. So I'm like, I think I'm in an okay position to click wish, which I did. As long as I don't get high rolled, then I baton pass it straight into the Mega Mawile, win the game. Unfortunately, he high rolls it. Somewhat concerning, especially if he has Mystical Fire here, because then I could be in a real bind. I see that it doesn't have any sort of leftovers going on, so I'm actually starting to wonder if this is maybe a Scarf set. Because I think base 60 gets to 360-ish. No, it wouldn't creep Greninja, so I don't really know what he's going for with a Sylveon. Scarf doesn't really offer him a lot, but he's definitely speed invested. It could be choice specs, but I feel like it would do more than 29% right there. Anyway, I come in with the Iron Head. Iron Head gets the Oko. It wasn't Babiri Berry either, so I'm not quite sure what that item was, but it was definitely creeping its speed quite a bit. Really could have been a dangerous position after that high roll on Moonblast. But Mega Mawile survives. Mega Mawile gets another kill. Mega Mawile, I think, picked up 3 KOs this week. Yeah, KOs on Mudsdale, Ferrothorn, and then Sylveon almost got a kill on the Latios if it decided to attack. I'm wondering if the Latios had a move for the um, Mawile. It must have been Aura Sphere because that's the only way it does any sort of damage. I'm really curious about that. I meant to ask. But all in all, really another strong, solid performance. Mega Mawile is continuing to be a really strong centerpiece, but I'm not using it in a way where it's hindering the rest of my team. I'm just giving Mega Mawile lots of opportunities to hit the field and be effective. Umbreon was able to pivot this match. Landorus was able to pivot this match. Rotom Wash was able to pivot this match. Greninja was able to pivot this match. So I have 4 pivoting pieces that were able to create windows for Mawile and Entei, who unfortunately went down early, to get on the field and just do lots of damage. So I was really, really satisfied that game plan panned out. I moved to 4-1 now, so I'm on a 4-game win streak. I think I figured out how I like to utilize my team. I think my pieces are meshing together mostly pretty well. I'm seeing good utility out of pretty much everything. Obviously, Regidrago hasn't hit the field yet, but he wasn't going to hit the field this week with a Sylveon to deal with. He was just never going to be effective in that regard, unless I was going to go for some sort of hard call plays where I send Regidrago out to bait out Sylveon so that I can get Mawile onto the field on a hard call. Doable, really not ideal and really risky. So I am glad I don't opt for that strategy, but I had considered that. And then Trapinch, who I don't see hitting the field anytime soon. I debated it in this match because I thought it would be a fun situation with Latios or even the Regieleki. If I could bait either of them into a choice lock move and trap them in there, then I can come in there with Trapinch and just get a free KO. Don't go for it. I don't regret it. I think the pieces I brought were very effective, so I was really happy with how they performed. But I'm 4-1. I play the last undefeated team in our division next week, so I am very much looking forward to that match. He obviously has a really good team, and am figuring out my team pretty well. So I'm feeling like I'm in a good mental spot for that matchup. I'm not just coming off a bad loss or anything like that. So I will be back with that next video. So stay tuned for it.